Hey, hi, hello friends, and welcome back to Em Reads Books. I'm Em, and I read books. So today we are doing the end of the year book tag. And so this is a little bit different than what I had said was like my be-all, end-all TBR, right? Because this is, the books that I want to read by the end of the year, but also there is some other stuff sort of tied into that. So the first question is, are there any books that you've started that you need to finish by the end of the year? And I would say definitely yes. I'm currently reading Every Last Fear by Alex Finlay for sort of like a NetGalley thing. And I want to start the new year with my NetGalley shelf completely done. So that means that I also need to read The Project by Courtney Summer, which, I have no problems doing that. It sounds like a really great book. And then I also need to read When the Stars Go Dark by Paula McLean, which is another thriller. I seem to have been, I'm on NetGalley's thriller list, so I get to read a lot of these books. But what it means is that I'm constantly reading thrillers, which is great for sort of winter and autumn just because it gets darker earlier, which makes it a little spooky. But it also means that, I'm not reading as much of other things as I'd like to be. The next question is if I have an autumnal book to transition into the rest of the year. So for me, this is really hard just because I don't really, think of books as having seasons, or I don't remember what season it is in the book. But The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, I would definitely say, oh wow, this cover is way off. It's because Gil takes the dust jackets off when he reads, I don't know why. But this just gives me it gives me cozy vibes. It has adventure in it and fantasy. I know a lot of people like to read fantasy in the fall, probably because they both start with the same letter. But it does go through seasons in this, and I think that that's just sort of perfect. Now, next, they ask, is there a new release that I am still waiting for? And the answer is yes. So I am waiting for Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. I read Ready Player 1 when I was a freshman in college, which was almost... How old am I? Yeah, that was, oh my god, that was 9 years ago. And I really liked it. I liked all of the throwbacks to the 80s and things like that. There are some elements in the book that are problematic now, sort of looking back. And I have to say, I went and I saw the movie. The movie was awful compared to the books. And admittedly, that's sort of normal. Everything sucks when you compare it to the book. But, And I will say, I also read his other book, Armada, which was basically, if you took Top Gun and Ender's Game and put them together, it was kind of a total ripoff, honestly, and I didn't really like it. But I like his prose and his wit, so I'm optimistic. It also asks, what are 3 books I want to read before the end of the year? So if we go back in our heads, right, to my be-all, end-all TBR, I had 10 or 12 books on there, and I am happy to say I have read all but 2. So these 2 books are 100% on my I need to read these before 2020 is over. So the first is The Gilded Wolves by Rashadi Chakshi. And again, all I really know about this is that it's going to be sort of a heist-style fantasy, which I am here for. I know that it's going to be really good. And then the second one is 10 Arrows in Iron by Sam Sykes. My friend Dan has been trying to get me to read this for months and months and months, and my library doesn't have it, and I don't know how I'm going to get it, because I don't own the first one. So I'd feel weird buying the second one. Which, is that a thing that in book land, right? Would you buy the sequel if you don't own the first one? I don't know. But that is going to be a ride, and I know that. And I also know that it's going to be a pretty sizable book, probably around 700 pages. but it's not going to feel like that just because of all of the dialogue and the quips. So the last book that I want to read before 2020 is over is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I've been listening to the audiobook. It's been so good. This basically feels like you're doing a Dungeons and Dragons party in space, and everyone has their secrets, and there's all sorts of, you know, a little bit of political intrigue, a whole lot of sci-fi, a bunch of adventure. And I guess I should have put this in the first part where I was talking about the books that I need to finish, because I'm currently reading it. I'm like halfway through, but it's so long. The thing about audiobooks is that, you know, they take a while, even if you run them at 1.5 speed. This is like 15 hours or something like that, where normally I'd be able to read the book probably in about half the time. But I also know that this is a part of a series. I don't know if I'm going to be reading the rest of them. Dan told me that the 4th one is coming out soon, and I think he just wanted someone to talk about it with, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that's the whole point of buddy reading. If anyone wants to buddy read Ready Player 2 with me, let me know. Let's go. Let's do this. They're also asking if there's any book that I think could shock me and become my favorite book of 2020. And I think ultimately I don't know, because like I would have to honestly go through and give a lot of thought to sort of what books are even in my top 10 of 2020. Now, that being said, there are still a bunch of books that I want to read, and you know, like The Dragon Republic and Jade War. There's a lot of sort of sequels in these great series that I've been reading that, you know, I've heard have been getting better and better and better. You know, Empire of Gold also I need to read, but I don't know, ultimately. I think that eventually I'm going to be making, you know, my top 10 of 2020, and I think that I will be surprised with sort of what I rank number 1. That's what I'll say. And the last question is, have you started making reading plans for 2021? And the answer is kind of yes and no. So basically, I am trying to be really committed to clearing out my TBR. Right now, it is at 57. So as you know, I'm not a huge sort of adder to TBR. Sometimes I'll even, you know, this is with me forgetting to add certain sequels to my list even, but I know that there are lots of books coming out in 2021 that I really want to read. One of them is The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. I've requested an arc on NetGalley. We'll see if that comes through, because I've been wanting to read this for over a year. Like, let's be clear, in 2020, I actually like made my Goodreads account, and The Echo Wife has been basically at number 1 in my TBR since then. I also, you know, I want to reduce the amount of books that I'm buying, which means that I have a bunch of Amazon First Reads ebooks to read, and that's going to be a whole separate video. But I'm thinking, you know, like going through my TBR in order. That might be my plan for TBR. Just because that way I'm getting off the things that have been in there a while. Some of them, you know, like Patrick Rothfuss's The Doors of Stone, and Scott Lynch's The Thorn of Emberlane, you know, those probably aren't coming out anytime soon, so they'll just be sort of stuck in there. But that, I think, is my plan. So thank you for watching. Like this video if you liked it, but let me know down below, I'd say what the book that you're most wanting to read by the end of 2020 is. You know mine, and I want to know yours. So that is it for today. But as always, happy reading.